Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 145, and for this one, we get 'em good. We make it to Bellagio around midnight. After winning 8 sessions in a row, I've lost the last 2. Tonight, I'm hoping to get back to winning. I stopped by the conservatory on site. They just finished the exhibit for the Chinese New Year. It's making me feel very calm and centered, so I can be in the right mindset for completely dominating people's souls and crushing opponents into tiny pieces at the poker table. I make my way to the room. There's a seat available for me right away. I buy into the 5-10 game for $1,500. Buckle your seats. This is going to be a wild one. We've got ace-queen offsuit in the big blind. The person who told me that he watches the channel raises to 40 from the cutoff. Small blind calls. I defend for 30 more. We're going 3 ways to the flop. It's ace-ace-6 rainbow. We flop trips and have the best kicker that we'll ever have in this situation. Small blind checks. I check to the pre-flop raiser. He doesn't bite. He checks back. Everyone's seeing another one at the low price of no dollars. The turn is the 8 of diamonds. The small blind checks. I can't let these people freeload any longer. I bet 50. The blog watcher on the cutoff doesn't believe that I've got it. He raises to 170. To be honest, I don't believe that he's got it. The small blind folds. The cutoff has better than trips, which is what he seems to be representing. And I certainly don't want to re-raise and give him more money. If he's bluffing, he'll be drawing slim at best. I don't want to scare him away. I call for 120 more. The river is the jack of hearts. I check with intention of calling a potential bet. My hand is somewhat under-repped since I didn't 3-bet pre-flop. The opponent doesn't have it in him to fire again. He check gives up. I turn over trips. It's good. The cutoff doesn't show what he had, but he confirms my suspicions that he was after my Bradley dollars. We win a solid pot right away to get the session started. Trust me, we are just getting started. We've got pocket aces under the gun. I'm pretty sure the pre-flop guide suggests that we raise in this spot. That's what I do. I make it 30. The cutoff calls. The small blind wants to exercise his right to 3-bet. He re-raises to 150. This player's only been at the table for a few orbits, but I've already seen him jam in a few weird situations that didn't really make sense. I want to go heads up with him in position. I 4-bet to 350. This should be enough to get the player behind me out, but the small blind will still be getting a good price to call with the worst hand if he wants, or he has enough meat behind to potentially 5-bet jam as a bluff. This guy seems like a bluffer. Cutoff folds. The small blind doesn't take long to consider his options. He basically snap calls and has 925 left in his stack. I don't care what the run out is. I'm going to find a way to get all my chips in if I can. It's just the 2 of us in what's already become a very big pot. The dealer puts out king 8-6 with 2 hearts. The opponent had kings. All the money would be in the middle already. I hope he has ace king. He's got something that he likes because he leads into me for the maximum.
Call.
One's good. Yeah. I hate chopped pots more than my camera hates focusing on the board. We're running it once, and there will be blood. The turn is the 7 of diamonds. I have no idea what cards I need to fade, or even if I'm in the lead. The river is another 8. Apparently, it's a good run out for us because the opponent doesn't seem to like it at all.
You don't have anything? Ace 10. Nice.
The small blind has ace-10 of hearts. He got it in with a flush draw, 1 over, and a backdoor straight draw. Glad I decided to run it once. It's tough to dodge hearts on 2 boards. We get every dollar that the player has to be up over $1,400, and we're not even close to done. I'll be sending you your cuts in the mail. With all the excitement of the previous hand, I somehow forget to record my cards for the next hand. Luckily, I'm an expert at drawing and problem solving. I've got 9-8 of spades under the gun. I raised to 30. Big blind is the only customer. She calls for 20 more with a short stack. The flop comes queen 7-4 with 2 spades. We've got a flush draw and a backdoor straight draw. The opponent checks. I bet 40 is a semi-bluff. She's gonna make it harder for me than that, just to be consistent with other women who have come and gone in my life. She calls. I'm lucky she didn't take my cat. The turn is the 8 of clubs. We make a pair. Big blind checks. I have showdown value, so I no longer need to semi-bluff. I also get the feeling that my opponent is strong. I check back to make sure I see a river. It's the jack of hearts. We're downgraded to 3rd pair. Big blind bets 120. My New Year's resolution is to not hero call as much. I fold without much thought. It's an interesting hand, not because the pot was that large, but mostly because I semi-bluffed you at the start of it. I almost deleted the video thinking that it wouldn't make the vlog. While doing so, I realized that I actually had 10-9 of spades. I misremembered my hand and folded the absolute nuts. I backdoored a straight, had the opponent betting into me. In 18 years of poker, I can't remember a single other time that I folded the nuts, especially using both cards. I've been working as hard as I can lately, playing and editing, plus it's extremely distracting to film and write notes about previous hands while playing. All that together caused a giant mistake for me. It cost me at least $265, probably more. Certainly had my fair share of embarrassing moments on the vlog. that one is right up there with the best of them. I'm experiencing a lot of inner pain right now. Unfortunately for someone, I'm gonna have to pay that forward. I'm dealt ace-deuce suited on the button. I opened to 30. The big blind is a young kid with a stack on the shorter side who has me mistaken for someone who's gonna fold to a 3-bet. He makes it 100. That's not enough. I call for 70 more. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Jack 5-3 rainbow. We've got a gutter with 1 over and a backdoor flush draw. The big blind down bets to 65. He's probably doing this with a very wide range, potentially with plenty of ace-high hands that are ahead of us. My hand is way too strong to let go for that price. I call with intentions to bluff at it at some point if I need to. The turn is the 5 of diamonds. We pick up a straight flush draw. I like that card a lot. The player slows down and checks. He doesn't have that much behind relative to the game that we're in. I told you that I was going to pay that pain forward. I do the most fun thing that I can think of, announcing that I'm
Owen.
The jam is for 780 effective. It's more than twice the size of the pot. When I play against people who buy in and play for a long time with substantially less than the max buy-in amount, I assume they do so because they're being cautious with their money rather than for strategic purposes. I like to put these types of people to the test, particularly when I have a monster draw. The only concern that I have is that the player could have pocket jacks. Even if that's the case, I'll just drill the 4 of diamonds. No big deal there. The player doesn't snap call, so he clearly doesn't have a boat. He doesn't snap fold either though. He could still have a hand with some value and is thinking that the shove looks fishy because it is. We're about to see if the opponent can be a hero that no one needs right now. Part of me wants to fold, part of me wants to call so I can hit an offsuit 4 and win. Actually, hitting a deuce might be enough. After 15 seconds, the player lets his cards go. We get it through. That'll teach him not to 3-bet me. Perhaps he'll do it more. Can't be sure. All I know is that this is a real-time image of both of our heart sizes. Next, we have pocket queens on the button. The player under the gun +1 raises to 50. He's a relatively new player who I've seen do some squirrely things for fun. Sometimes large open sizes tend to be somewhat defensive in nature, with hands that people know are strong but don't feel comfortable playing, especially out of position. The classic hand that would fit this description would be pocket jiggities. I can beat that. I 3-bet to 150. It's very possible that the opponent has a much worse hand too, since he just got caught bluffing earlier and he's stuck. Maybe he wants to play a big pot. That seems to be likely. He calls. Since he didn't 4-bet, we should have the best hand. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Jack 10-6, all diamonds. What a nightmare this is. I could be up against flushes, sets, or 2-pair, and if I'm not, anything with a diamond will have a lot of equity against me. Under the gun +1 checks. With this board texture, I check back in order to get one step closer to a cheaper showdown or induce a bluff from my opponent on future streets. The turn is the 7 of clubs. It's not a terrible card. The player isn't going to let it check through this time. He bets 230. I didn't check back flop to fold here. I call, not having any clue where I'm at. The river is the 5 of spades. Not too much to worry about if I was previously ahead. The player's thinking about what he wants to do. I already have my mind made up. If he fires again for any amount that's reasonable, I have to call, given the way that I played this and what I know about this guy. Ultimately, he bets 460. That falls into the reasonably sized bet category. I call. The player flips his cards over immediately, which at first is scary. Then I realize he has 10-9 of clubs. He flops second pair, then turned it into a bluff when he picked up a gutter on the turn. After bricking the draw, he tried to put me to the test, firing one big bullet on the river. I passed the test with flying colors. I like the opponent's will to never give up. I like my chip stack better though. It ends up being a pretty light call since I only beat bluffs. Happy it works out. We're up 2,400 on the session when our must-move table dwindles down to 5-handed. I have the 2-piece McJiggities under the gun. Since we're playing short, it's also the hijack. I raised to 30. The cutoff, button, small blind, and big blind seem to have a vendetta against me. They all call. One or more are likely implementing the revenge range that I advocate. We go 5 ways to a flop. There's no chance I'm going to win this. Comes 7-6-6 rainbow. Someone has to have a boat or quads or something ridiculous that has me beat. The small blind and big blind check. Despite feeling like I'm going to get check raised, I can't get myself to check because there's at least some chance that I'm best with an overpair, and if 4 opponents get to see a free turn, the likelihood of me winning will substantially diminish. I bet 60 into 150, proceeding carefully to narrow down the field. The cutoff folds. I'm glad to get through the first opponent. The button calls. That's unfortunate because at best I'll be playing the turn out of position. The small blind folds. The big blind calls. He started the hand with 300. He only has 210 behind. If he had trips, you'd think he'd jam. He still could have a boat and call though. We're down to 3 of us. The turn is the king of hearts. The big blind checks. My hand has been downgraded. I somewhat accomplished the flop bet goal of having fewer opponents. My new goal is to get the showdown as cheaply as possible. I check to see what the button does. He's not taking a free card. He bets 150. The big blind folds. Glad to have him out of there. I know that we don't have an overpair anymore. It still feels too early to give up. I bet small on the flop and could have gotten light calls from any number of hands that had draws or backdoor draws or holdings containing a 7 that now want to bluff at it or bet to potentially see where they're at. Not necessarily a good strategy, but if more players were good, a lot of us would have to quit. I'm getting just over 3 to 1 on a call. I need to win 25% of the time or more to make this profitable. I call, hoping to make it profitable 100% of the time this time. The river is the 9 of spades. A few straight draws get there. I check to the button. He's thinking about potentially doing something wild. Eventually, he checks back. I turn over our cards. The opponent takes a little time to digest the 2-piece McJiggities. It's shocking for everyone that they're best, yet somehow they are. I've now made a few calls in tough spots this session that ended up being correct, even though I don't expect them to be that often because they don't actually need to be when you're getting decent odds. We're running good. The claw, which chooses who will go and who will stay, picks me up and places me in the main game where I'm dealt pocket queens and the hijack. I open to 30, cut off calls, as does the button. The big blind calls as well. We're going 4 ways to the flop. Comes 8-6-3 rainbow. The big blind checks. This is a familiar situation for us. We've got an overpair with lots of opponents. I'm going to bet to weed out some of the no-gooders. I make it 80. None of the no-gooders are weeded out. The cutoff calls, the button calls, and the big blind calls. When this many people are involved, it's very difficult to win with one pair. The turn is a deuce. The big blind checks. I check for pot control and to see what the players behind me want to do. The cutoff and button both check. I feel infinitely better about the hand. These guys probably have draws or one pair hands at best. They would have bet with 2 pair or better. The river is another deuce. The big blind checks. I don't see how the opponents could play anything the way they have so far that has me beat. I'm comfortable going for value. I bet 300 to charge opponents holding an 8 or pocket 9s or pocket 10s. My line could look a little suspect. I wanted to. Cut off calls. The other 2 players fold immediately. I turn over the queens. Cutoff doesn't have us beat. His cards are returned to the dealer without us finding out what they were. Our big pairs are holding even in multi-way pots. That's what's helped lead us to a huge winning session. We've got over 5,000 in front of us, good for a profit of over 3,500. Once the heater ends, I plan to pick up. That hasn't happened yet. I've got jiggities again. This time I'm in the hijack. Under the gun +1 raises to 30. He has a massive stack and he opened from early position. I call. The player on my left, who I beat in the previous hand, calls. He has a short stack. The button calls. The small blind calls. The big blind also calls. We're going 6 ways to the flop. Comes 10-8-5 rainbow. We haven't made any sets today. At least we keep making overpairs. The small blind, big blind, and under the gun +1 check. For the third hand, we're going over in a row. I'm going to bet and try to avoid what feels like a minefield of opponents with potentially strong hands. I make it 100. Short stack on my left announces that he's all in. He has exactly 400. The button, small blind, big blind, and under the gun +1 fold. I call for 300 more. Maybe I'm up against a straight draw or a hand like ace-10. Pretty happy to get it in with the short stack. The turn is the queen of diamonds. We pick up a gutter. I don't love it since we have second pair. The river is the king of clubs. It's another bad card. We don't beat much. The cutoff surprisingly has 10-5 of diamonds. He flopped top and bottom pair, then held on to beat us. I knew eventually the run good had to come to an end. I'm glad that we don't lose too much on this hand and we still book a win of well over 3,000 on the night. It's after 3 a.m. I've been doing a good job of cutting down on drinking this year, but I feel like celebrating a big win. I get an Instagram message from someone starting a poker vlog who I think is a very famous actor from Dumb and Dumber. I grab a drink with him. Unfortunately, turns out it's the wrong guy.
Just started the vlog. Jeff Daniels Poker, no spaces. Is where you'll find it.
Cool.
Very, very small channel with like 7 or 8 videos.
We'll cut that out.
Hoping to grow. Yeah, cut that out.
I won 31-20 over 3 hours tonight, ran about as good as possible. I folded the nuts, so that was pretty embarrassing. But I've just been trying to work really hard lately, trying to put out as many videos as possible and play as much as possible, and I think it kind of caught up to me, and that's why I misremembered my hand. But awesome session overall, and excited to put this video together. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons because it helps out the channel a ton. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to let me know in the comment section. I'm happy to get back to you. Also, be sure to hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every time I put out a new video. So it's good to be back to winning. Lost the previous 2 vlogs and then win big here to more than make up for those 2. And next vlog is even better if you enjoyed this one. So be on the lookout for that. Hope you're all doing well. Good luck at the tables, and I'll see you next time.